What we're going to do today is we're going to, as a part of this training, what I'm trying to help y'all to do is understand how you can work with clients, especially with families, and helping them on how to communicate with each other better, and also how to be more assertive. Because I know at least from my practice, with the people I work with, there's a lot of situations where the parents come in there, or the husband and wife come in, and you see that a lot of the problems is based on they don't know how to talk to each other. So if they can just learn how to speak to each other without cussing each other out or whatever the case may be, then we can kind of get some progress. So I want to talk a little bit today about communication, what that looks like. So make sure if you have questions, please do ask any questions. All right. Now you do have notes, so yeah, obviously I want you to don't have to look at your notes if you don't want to, but just kind of a good guide for you. Well, my open question for y'all as we get started: how would y'all define communication? How do you go about defining communication to someone else if they didn't know what that meant? If a client walked in and said,
verbal or nonverbal. In this case, you're talking verbally. Connecting
okay, verbally
to
connected.
someone and be,
Okay. What do you think?
Getting points and ideas across.
Okay. Getting points and ideas across. Okay.
Right.
Getting on the same page.
Okay, be on the same page with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Is communication difficult for anybody?
Some people it is.
What about for y'all? Is communication difficult for you?
In certain situations.
Okay. Okay. I know for me, I don't really communicate as well as I want to sometimes. I think I can sometimes assume I know where someone's coming from, and so I end up speaking out of turn, whatever the case may be. So I think communication is one of those things where it is difficult sometimes because we don't always know how to do with the other person, even though it's like the most basic fundamental skill you need to learn how to do. Because once you can communicate with somebody, you can pretty much do anything. And so I feel like with these families we work with, if we're not teaching them how to be able to talk and how to work with each other, then there's going to be issues with them. If you look at the definition here for communication, it's a real basic definition. It says a successful transmission of information and feelings from one person to another. That's not just information, but it's also feelings that kind of come across as well. Because there's a lot of times where I can communicate words to maybe to Judy, I'm talking about something, the words can kind of come across, but my feelings aren't there whatsoever. For example, if I'm telling my wife I love her, I can say, no, I love you. The words are there, but emotionally she might not feel that or whatever. And so trying to figure out how do I get the words and to communicate everything going together so the person feels what it is I'm trying to do. Now this next slide talks about how we communicate with other people. If you notice on here where it talks about body language is actually one of the most important ways we communicate with people. I can remember one of my clients, and he was, well, I'll explain to you, let you kind of tell me what you think. I had a client come in one day, and we're talking, and the whole time I'm talking to the client, he's doing this number right here. Just kind of looking at me, straight in my eye, kind of punching his fist into his hand. And every time I would kind of correct him on stuff, he's just like, and he starts hitting his hand harder. Verbally, he didn't say anything, but physically, what was his body saying?
He's frustrated.
He's frustrated. What else?
He wants to play baseball.
He doesn't want to play baseball. Don't think baseball was on his mind. Let's just think about use my head as a baseball,
Matthew.
His body was saying, hey, I'm upset about something. So it didn't take a rocket scientist. I didn't have to sit down and like, okay, so tell me what's going on inside your mind. Just looking at his body tells you whether or not he was with me or not. Like, for example, I'll be sitting if I'm sitting in class, if like the look math pad on his face right now, he's trying his best to pay attention. He's trying hard, His body's saying that, but if he's over like this, kind of like falling asleep, then he's telling me something. He's saying, hey, it's not connecting with me, it's not engaging, but we communicate not just through our words, but the way our bodies are as well. Tone of voice, that is a big deal. Now, help me out with that one. Why is our tone of voice, why does that make a difference when we're communicating with somebody?
Well, it just kind of shows a intent, I think. If your inflection is high and rapid, then I'm gonna think that you're kind of agitated or something. But if you're speaking kind of evenly toned and get that point across, I'm gonna receive that better than I will you kind of in the face kind of thing.
Had a client, this actually happened Wednesday. I was at their house, and this guy's taking care of his grandkids and everything, and the grandkids is afraid of the granddad. And it was kind of funny because the whole time he's like, I don't know why, he is afraid of me. I never raise my voice, and which he doesn't. I mean, he wasn't yelling, but it was just his tone. It was kind of like the kid's like this, he's like this, and whenever he talks to the kid, he kind of gets in his face, like real close to his face. Now, if I ask you to do something, you need to do it right now. He didn't raise his voice, but his physical presence, his tone, all those things, it was kind of hard to explain to him, though, the way you're presenting to his kid, I'd be afraid of you too. So it's like, it's not just the words that come out of our mouth, and it's communicating. So his body language was saying something to the kid that you're not safe, or you need to be afraid of me, If I get in somebody's face like this, I'm saying something to them, whether they want me to or not. And so the body language, all those things together make a big deal when it comes to communication. So I think just something we can help our clients out with is helping them realize if I'm trying to communicate something, once again, it's not just what you're saying. What's your body language saying? How are you interacting with people? Me and Dan are talking. Every time Dan says something, I'm like, I'm not saying anything negative, but under my breath, I'm mumbling stuff, whatever. I'm telling Dan, I'm not really interested in what you have to say, So if it's a thing where I'm being sarcastic all the time, or the case may be, I'm communicating to another person, I'm not respecting them. And so for our clients, it can be some very, very easy things to fix with them if they know how the communication, how it's working or how it's not working. And so just doing that. Now this next slide talks about the level of communication. We talked about that a little bit, but I want to kind of spend a couple more extra minutes in that. And this first level of communication talks about communicating through cliches. And we kind of gave an example of that last time we talked, that when we communicate through cliches, it's very surface level stuff. And it was kind of funny because this past week, as I was having conversations with people, I was like actually going through my mind, what level of communication am I doing with somebody? And so when the level one of communication, we're talking about cliches, it's just simply, let me get as the minimal amount of information I can to you without me having to totally engage with you. So it may be a situation where I say, actually, how's your day going? I'm doing fine. Does anybody know what fine means? Well, not there's one definition. I mean the appropriate definition. Does anybody know what fine really means? Or someone tells you that?
I'm saying this so
Light
you'll leave me
thin.
alone.
I'm just saying so you leave me alone. I call it the church answer sometimes. I say, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing good. Shake your hand. That means leave me alone. It's like shake your hand and I get to move on. And so we do that without thinking because. Once again, we are communicating to somebody, but it's not really getting anything at any depth at all. So if my families are at their level one where they're just kind of using cliches, how's it going? I'm fine. That's good. What else going with you? Well, I don't know. And so that's why we're asking the questions to kind of get deeper. So that level one is, once again, is just through those cliches, the quick and easy stuff. Second level, what we talked about is just the facts. Is where we have simple facts about things. So, Matt, for example. Who's your favorite chess player of all time?
Magnus Cross.
Magnus Cross, all right? Straight up facts, he just didn't get into emotions and how he dreams of being him one day or anything like that. None of those things came out, but very, very specific. That's just a simple fact. And it gets easy to kind of get caught up in that. Did you have a good day? Yes. Did you have a bad day? No, And having a good or bad day, we're not really, once again, not trying to get too deep in it. We're just getting very simple, getting the facts across to the person without getting into it. And it's very easy for assessment purposes. What I usually do, I'll just sit with my family and I'll just say, I want y'all to have a conversation for like 5 minutes. And what do you mean? I was like, just talk to each other. And I don't try to interject or anything. I just kind of sit back and watch and listen. It doesn't take long to figure out where they are on the continuum of the conversation because pretty much they're usually at level 1 and 2 when they're having a conversation with each other. Level 3 is just once again through opinions and through judgments where we're having an opinion about stuff. G, do you like football?
It's okay.
Okay, why is it just okay?
Well, basketball's my favorite.
And why do you like basketball?
I don't know, I've always loved it. It's round balls, just something about bouncing that ball and putting it through the hoop. And
All right. So you think back? So you're saying you think it's better than football?
it's only because it's my favorite.
All right.
I play and I coach.
Okay. So no emotional connection. She don't have to be anyway. But just opinion, she thinks it's better. Obviously I think college football is the best sport ever created ever. My own personal opinion. But that's just my opinion. And so we can talk back and forth about opinions all day long. But that doesn't mean that I'm close to you. Because we use that term which I don't really like. We agree to disagree. You ever tell somebody that? I hate that fact. I hate that because it's kind of like, well, here's my opinion, here's your opinion, and we're done with conversation. And so it gets, now which I understand why people do that, but we can get to a point where we just don't ever progress further in communication because it's just at the point of opinion, and so we never get further than that. The number 4 talks about communicating through feelings. Dan, do you love your wife?
Absolutely.
You do? Tell me some reason why you love your wife.
Because
Put you on
we
the
have
spot.
a deep emotional
You
connection.
have a deep emotional connection.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, we have each other's backs.
All right. And so there's a connection there with each other.
Mhm.
And so I can have the conversation with him, and so emotional turn, there's emotional connection, things like that. He's able to talk about that because there is that connection. He's able to talk about those type of things. Now I could have said, how you get on with your wife? Well, I hate her. Well, tell me why you hate her. And he can go into all these different things like that. Yet, hate is an emotion. It still is. So I'm not going to say, no, you shouldn't hate your wife. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't want him to, but that's still an emotional term. We can emotionally still talk about the situation, whether it's he likes, love, or hate, or whatever the case may be, but there's actually emotions to get connected. And so I have very, very few families that get there, where they can actually talk about something emotionally. Now, talk about politics, we get emotional about that, Talk about sports, we get emotional about that, but it's interesting when it comes to our own families, we can't ever get connected to that point where we're actually emotional about the topic. And so getting to the point where they're having conversations, where they're having to share, this is how I feel about something. Dan, whenever you take your underwear off and leave them on the bed, it frustrates me because you know better. I'm not connecting with him. I'm in that situation, I'm actually telling him how something affects me instead of saying, I hate you, hope you die. Well,
Stick a needle in your eye.
yeah. There's no communication there because I'm just telling you a fact. I hope you die, There's no emotion attached with it. It's just his opinion. And we never actually get to the point where we're actually talking about the problem. And so I feel like if we can get our families to get to the point where they can actually deal with the issues and talk about why is this bothering you? Why is this such an issue? A lot of those why questions are difficult because that makes you have to think. Everything, those first 3 levels, it's pretty quick to answer a yes or no or kind of get those past. But when you start asking those why questions about, okay, every time we try to be intimate, you decide you don't want to be intimate anymore. What's going on? Let's talk about that. That's going to be an emotional topic. You can't just talk about that with some facts and figures. There's something really more beneath that. And so getting people to be able to go there is going to be difficult, but it's important. And the level 5 is communicating by exposing yourself and your needs. Someone, what does it mean to be vulnerable? What does that term mean?
To be exposed, to have your weaknesses exposed, or to expose yourself to possible criticism, not have your walls up.
Anybody here like being vulnerable?
Sort of.
That's it, sort of.
Sometimes.
Okay, sort of. But with who?
My wife.
Okay.
Possibly my my clients, if I'm honest with them about what I expect in the session. I'm vulnerable because they could say, well, I really don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe my friends, those would be the only times.
Now I have a very tiny circle of friends. I know a lot of people. When it comes to people who I can say, this is what's really going on with me. This is where I'm hurting. This is where my weak points are. I can name those on my hand, literally. So, and I think everybody kind of has that thing where we have a certain few people who I can expose what's going on with me, and I'm trusting the information to you. Now, once I give the information, so if I give it to Judy, and Judy laughs in my face or whatever, that's going to hurt me deeper. I don't care if she likes my facts or the opinions. There's a lot of things I'm opinionated about that you're not going to agree with me on. I can go to sleep at night with that. But if I communicate with you something that I'm very vulnerable about, my weaknesses and things like that, and you throw that back in my face and you reject me for it, what's a human thing to do at that point? When you get rejected, what do we normally do?
Withdraw.
Yeah, we withdraw.
On the
Or get
defense, yeah.
angry.
We get angry. and how often after that do we start being vulnerable to other people?
Yeah.
We don't.
Nah.
We just don't do that. And so that's why that level 5, that community, that's why that's so scary, because we have to get to the point where I'm saying, I've got some stuff going on with me that if this person can connect with me, then we can actually see some good work happening, but I've got to trust them. And if you look at our families you work with, trust is not something that's high on our priority list. And so what we're doing is, hopefully, as we try to work through our families, getting them to that level 5 where they can actually trust somebody else. It may be you initially. I mean, our clients end up doing that. I mean, we'll have clients come to us for the first time and say, I want to tell you something I've never told anybody else. And they're being vulnerable. They're laying all the stuff out. And so our response has to be something that is going to be helpful to them. You know, if someone come and tell me all this stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. You know, we messed that relationship up because we rejected them. And so people don't like being rejected. And so being able to help people to learn and grow from being vulnerable and actually showing them what that looks like will help them in their growth process of communication. And so that's where we're headed. That's where we want to get to. It doesn't always happen. And so once again, if they're starting at level 1, if I can get to level 3 or 4, I'm feeling like I've done something great. But obviously I want to get my clients to the point where if they're at level 5, they don't need me anymore. Because if Dan's one of my clients, he's coming in and he's like sharing really deep stuff with his wife, and they're working through it and they're processing it. And every time I'm coming through, I'm like, what do you need to talk about? I don't really have anything to talk about. Me and my wife already talked about it already. I'm okay with that. I would much rather, that's fine with me. If I get families talking to themselves about stuff and working out, then they don't need me, and I'm okay with that. And
Because the point is for them to be communicating with someone.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That's what we want them to be the point where they're communicating to somebody else.
Okay.
All right. Any questions so far? Or this making any sense so far?
Yeah, good stuff.
All right. These next few, and I'm going to skip a couple slides here, but I still want to look at it. It's Gary Chapman's 5 Love Languages. We briefly talked about this about a couple months back. What Gary Chapman does in his 5 Love Languages books, the basic premise of it is, you know how we talk about the whole level 4, level 5 communication? That's what that book helps people to do. It helps you understand what how to communicate level 4, level 5 to certain people, because we all have certain ways in which we communicate. And so he goes through these 5 different things that he looks at. He has a book on love language for kids, love language for parents. This one's more just love language in general. And the first one he talks about is this words of affirmation. Now, why is that important? Why do you think people like being affirmed?
For just an overall sense of I think it's if I'm needing affirmation about something, then I'm needing, it could be a security thing, it could be esteem, it could just be a level of just my understanding. If that affirms something that I'm saying, then that just gives me that security to know I may know what I'm talking about. You know.
And for some people, they eat that stuff up. You know, if I see Dan working on something he's been working on really, really hard this week, I say, no, Dan, I just want to thank you. I think you're doing an excellent job, and I want you to know that I appreciate the hard effort you're putting in. For him, that may be worth more to him to give him a raise. Which I'm sure you want a raise too. But in general, for some people, when it comes to words of affirmation, when they can hear something positive they're doing, it's letting them to know that what I'm doing is being recognized by other people. And that's not a selfish thing. I don't think anything wrong with that. That's just a way they end up feeling appreciated. It's that I don't need to put my name on the wall or anything. Just the fact that, hey, you said thank you, you appreciate what I'm doing. It helps out quite a bit. And so it's just, I think it's helpful. Here's a couple of verses that kind of go along with that. Which I think they're appropriate. It says, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruits. Just realizing the stuff that we say to people can either help them or can harm them. You know, growing up with the kids, they say, no, sticks and stones may break our bone, but words may never hurt us. That's a lie. Because I think if you look at some of your clients, some of the stuff they struggle with the most is something someone has said to them. You know, you're never going to be anything, you're worthless, people hate you, I wish you would die, all these things like that. And this stuff happened to them years ago, and this is stuff they're bringing to the sessions because it's still embedded in their mind. Because someone had an opportunity there to say something positive about them, but yet they use something negative, and people are kind of plagued by that. And so the things we say to people, they actually do matter. And so just kind of being careful about that. This is another thing that says, an anxious heart weighs a man's down, but a kind word cheers him up. And so just being able to say something positive to someone else is important. There's a study done a few years back, and it says for every negative thing someone says about you, it takes almost 10 positive affirmations to make that person kind of be able to deal with that. So here's Dan, he's working with me, and I'm telling Dan, you know what, man, I think you're a horrible therapist. I don't know what's going on with you. You know, if I'm just saying all negative stuff to him, that stuff's going to be kind of stuck in his mind. He's going to need about 10 other things positive going on with him to kind of help him to start dealing with that. And so especially some of these kids we see in the environments they're in, if day in and day out, you're no good, nothing's good about you, it's nothing but negative all the time, you see why they do the things they do for attention. You know, I'm getting attention, period, now. So it'll make a difference if it's negative attention. I'm getting attention. And so because so many negative things have been said to me over and over again, people begin to believe that kind of stuff. And so we can help sometimes just the positive things we say about our clients. You know, hey, I appreciate the hard work you've been doing in session. You know, you've been coming here for 3 weeks now. Man, you're never late. You're working really hard in therapy. That may be the only positive thing someone said to that person the entire week. And so just words of affirmation does help in that scenario. This next one talks about quality time. Now, I'm trying to kind of think for a second. I'm going to kind of give you a picture of the normal American family, because this is kind of where we are right now. Monday night, we have baseball games. Tuesday is soccer. Wednesday, we have church. Thursday is spelling bee. We practice for that every week. Friday is just judo. We do judo on Friday night. Saturday, that's board game night that we do with our friends. We're competitive in board games, whatever the case may be. And Sunday, we're really, really tired, but that's the day we gotta get the family together and go and we'll do something together. And so we see families every single night of the week doing stuff, but not really spending time with each other. And so the question becomes, what are we doing all that stuff for? And so we have to kind of ask sometimes when families are asking, how are you spending quality time with each other? And the answer may be, well, we do stuff together all the time. I go and I watch my kid play baseball, which there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing bad about that. But it's like, how much of that time are you actually spending to get to know the other person? Because it's possible, I'm sure y'all experience it too, to be with somebody but not actually be with them. If that makes any sense. It's like we're in the same room. We may be on the couch watching TV together, but that doesn't mean we're like learning anything from each other. You know, they may be married. I jokingly say married couples, for every year they're married, you find that every year they move apart an inch on the couch. You know, when they first get dating, they're all like this on top of each other. And then by the time 50 years, they're in 2 different rooms. Daddy's sleeping here, mom's sleeping there. And for some reason, that separation is going away. And I think sometimes it's just because of quality time. And so for Dan, it may be, I'm picking on you a lot today. You know, for Dan, it may be the positive affirmation. For Judy is, hey, let's just go to the park and walk around for 30 minutes and spend some time that way talking to each other. And so these are things that don't cost anything, they're free, but once again, it helps the communication raise up in the families. This making sense so far? All right, so there's some quality time ideas. Something me and my family do is really simple. We call it the high and the low for the day. So we're sitting around a dinner table, you know, people still do that, I think. Or we actually have dinner together, and so we'll go around the table. What's your high for the day? Hey, you know, I got an A on my spelling bee. Awesome, that's cool. So what was your low? I got in trouble for talking too much in class, or I got a speeding ticket, whatever the case may be. And we do that, and the purpose of it is so we're actually taking a couple minutes to talk about what's going on. Now, obviously, these are still level 1, level 2 type of communication things, but you know, if I have a kid that comes in and, well, you know what, I failed my multiplication table test today. Well, that's a fact. Maybe that's a point of conversation I can have with them now. Well, after dinner, sit down and talk about that for a few minutes. And that gives me an opportunity to kind of know what's actually going on in my family's life because I'm actually taking a few minutes to figure it out. And so just simple stuff like that. Any of y'all, like lunch dates? You ever go on lunch dates with your kids, spouse, friends? Anybody do that kind of stuff? Sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
You do that?
Lately, it's been tough with schedules.
I got you. It happens. Life happens. And so just finding some time we can do. Me and my wife went to a movie last night. It was awesome. I actually went to the movie and bought some very expensive popcorn, but that wasn't the point. I got to hang with my wife, so that was a good thing. So just this quality time is good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this next one is my favorite. Is receiving gifts. Now, why is receiving gifts? Why is that so important?
That you thought about.
Mm-hmm. People actually you had to put some time and effort and energy into doing it. Now I'm doing some level 5 communication with you guys. Is that okay? So don't reject me and laugh at my mistake here. A couple of years ago, my wife and I was trying to. I don't think she's difficult to buy for. I don't listen well enough. That's probably the best thing. I don't take hints throughout the year about stuff. And so I was trying to take the easy route out of buying her Christmas gift. So, yeah, you see where this is going. And so it's getting around Christmas time. So what I ended up doing was I said, here, baby, here's $100. Just buy what you want to for Christmas. And I thought, by just giving her some money, she can go buy what she wants, and then she'd be happy. And she got upset with me. I'm talking about mad, and I was like, "Why are you so mad?" She's like, "Because you didn't even try. You didn't even try to buy anything for me." It's like any stranger off the street could have gave me $100 to go buy something. I was like, "Oh yeah," and I felt ignorant for a while. And so now it's like I'm trying my best to try to think about it. So for some people, receiving gifts it's because you're taking the time to think about what my needs are. And so you bought something for me. It's not necessarily what the dollar amount is. It's the fact that, hey, you did something, you thought about me, or whatever. I've had clients who made me some of the most precious stuff. Football, I'm a big University of Tennessee fan. Had a little client a couple years ago, made me a little Arkansas Razorback thing to go on my Christmas tree. I hate the Razorbacks, no offense. I know you were, not an Arkansas fan, but guess what? That made me smile. And on my Christmas tree that year, I had a big old Arkansas Razorback. And when people came to my house, they're like, "Why do you have that on your tree?" I said, "Because the client made it for me." And that meant a lot to me because they put the time and the effort and energy into it. And so I'm going to buy Dan a Tennessee shirt because with my love for you. But that's what I'm saying.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with it.
I'll have some level 5 communication for you.
Yeah, so it's just the fact that we're doing that. And so it doesn't have to necessarily be money or it can be a gift. So something I tell families to do a gift notebook where throughout the years people say things they like, write these things down so you have some ideas for it, things like that. We haven't done this, we've done this a couple of times. We call it a week of favorites, where for 1 week, one kid gets to be in charge of everything to a certain extent. So for this week, it's Johnny's week, so every night this week, he gets to pick out what we're having for dinner. And so, boom, the whole week, or just one night, which is more feasible, I think. That one night, he wants to have pancakes for dinner. You know what? I'm not going to argue with about it. We're just going to have pancakes for dinner. And his favorite TV show is Power Rangers. I hate Power Rangers, but guess what? That's his night to do this. And so we do try to have one night we do something specific for that kid or one family member. And what that's doing is speaking to that person's need. You communicate to that person that you care about them. And it's helping them to realize, I am cared about because they spend enough time just to do this one specific thing for me. And so it's a favorite night. And once again, they don't have to be something expensive, My daughter's, her favorite thing, let's do hot dogs and macaroni and cheese. Now that's not like the most healthiest thing in the world at all, but guess what? For one night, it's not going to kill me. So the purpose of it is to show that person, I'm doing this for you as a way of showing a gift to you. All right, another one he talks about is acts of service. What does that even sound like? What does that mean to you guys, acts of service?
Providing a service to someone else or doing something. If it's family situation, just doing something for someone in the family that maybe you don't normally do. So just to do that, something that they usually do. Like my son. Like this says take out the trash. I make him take out the trash. So maybe one day I may take it out for him. I doubt it, but
I doubt it.
I think he needs to do something. But just to do something like that for somebody in the family. Or, like you're saying, cook one night. You cook for Dana one night instead of her cooking for you.
This is for the guys. Tell you something that women find sexy is folding clothes. I don't know what it is about that, but she comes home, we've washed the clothes, and they're folded and put away. I'm trying to tell you.
Okay.
Don't you bow wow. But seriously though, and I got Melissa blushing over here. But
Fold clothes.
I'll mess myself up here. But the reality is though, if I'm doing something for somebody without them having to ask, that scores some big points. I'm not saying just do that for the points value of it, but once again, it's communicating to the other person, hey, you care about me, So she comes home, dinner's already cooked, the kids are, you got the kids' baths and stuff done, whatever the case may be. You're doing stuff for the person without them having to ask. That's saying to them, hey, I care about you. And so now that we do have an extra hour of time, we can spend some time together, wherever this may lead, what the case may be. But It's just, once again, it's something that I'm showing the other person, I'm doing this for you because I care about you. And so it made me think my girls, every once in a while, I don't do too much, I may wash their dishes for them because that's their chore, So, hey, you know what? We're going to spend some extra time tonight as a family. After dinner, I'll do dishes tonight, But the purpose of it is, I'm trying to show you I care about you. And so just those acts of service like that can be helpful. I'll put on here, changing the diaper, which I'm glad we're out of that stage. Making a bed, take out trash, those things are good. All right, this last one is physical touch. Now, what is the negative side of physical touch? Why does physical touch get such a bad rap? You're not hugging your clients and stuff like that, obviously. But but why in a family context, why does physical touch sometimes get a bad rap? Why do you have families who don't ever do that?
You had bad experiences with touch.
Bad experiences with touch before? Okay. What else?
I think it can go back to being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just aren't willing to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
It takes some vulnerability to be able to touch somebody, because there's because
Let your boundaries.
yeah, you have to watch your boundaries. And so touch is it's one of the most powerful things in the world. And because we're not going to really talk about as therapists and clients per se, but when we talk about family, it's a very, very powerful thing. I remember growing up, I could have my legs shot off, whatever. If my mom came and she touched me on my back, I knew things was okay, because we had that relationship that way. But lots of families, touch is not the only thing they just don't do, just because there could have been some trauma in the past, whatever the case may be. But that doesn't make touch a bad thing. And so one thing we try to make sure we do, and what I think is a good thing to either model or to kind of talk to them about, is help them know how touch can be a positive thing. So if your kid is crying and it's just awkward for you, the fact that you just put your hand on your kid's back, whatever the case may be, it's kind of a reassuring thing that things can be okay. But it's one of those things I think you have to be careful with, for our clients, be careful with each other on and knowing what each other's boundaries are. But touching is not a bad thing. We've just things that are pure and good, we've kind of messed those up really, really bad for some reason. So being able to show that touch is okay. So you have husband and wife who haven't held hands in years. Sex is not even something you even talk about. It's much less holding hands. So help them build up these type of things. So I always try to remind couples, especially, what was that attracted you to this person. They can talk about that, and it's kind of remember back to the day when you used to hold hands and you couldn't ever spend time away from each other, and kind of help them remember some positive things they did. But just touch in general is, I think, a good thing. Now, anybody ever kiss their spouse in front of their kids? Anybody do that? Okay. Why do you do that, Dan?
Because I'd be feeling it right then. They happen to be right.
Technical term. Because I'll be feeling it, yeah.
No. And they need to know that we love each other, that we care, that we're.
No, I think it's good. I kiss my wife in front of my kid. I always have not being inappropriate or anything. But I kiss my kids. I kiss my wife in front of my kids. I do kiss my kids. That's another story. But I kiss my wife in front of my kids though. But the purpose of it is help them see that things are okay. In most kids, especially the household that we're talking about, what do they normally see their parents doing?
Yelling at each other, fighting.
Yelling, fighting, getting cussed out. You're dirty. All these type of things. That's their normal thing. Is they're seeing chaos, and so. In a kid's mind, if you're seeing mom and dad fuss and argue in front of you all the time, it doesn't give you a sense of stability whatsoever, that things are going to be okay. But if it's oh my gosh, every time I see my mom and dad, they won't leave each other alone, that's a good thing. Because kids are going to remember that. They're going to remember, this kid's talking about how his parents are slapping each other. My parents won't leave each other alone. It's gross. They say that, but really they're thinking it's a good thing, because your kids aren't going to be sitting there wondering, are mom and dad doing okay? Because they're kissing each other all the time. They're holding each other's hand. They're sitting with each other on the couch. They're spending time with each other. And so I think it's a positive thing that can be done. It's just, once again, making sure it's appropriate. But the point of it is helping communicate to them that, hey, this is okay. And so these 5 different ways, words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, physical touch. What the book basically does, it gives a little quiz in there. It helps people to see what their best need is, to communicate to them. And that way, as a spouse or as a husband or as a parent or whatever, I know how to meet that need for the other person. So if Judy's need is for physical touch, then I need to do that versus gift. Gift doesn't do anything for her. Physical touch does. And it's just to me, it's an easy way and practical way of helping people learn how to communicate their needs to each other. That makes sense so far? All right. All right, next we're going to talk about roadblocks to communication. We talked already a little bit about the different levels of communication and how some different ways we can communicate, like through love languages, things like that. Now I want to talk about some specific things people say and they don't realize it can be offensive whenever they say it to other people. And so I'm going to go through this list here. The first one is what we call unsolicited advice. And the term I start off with this is it would be best for you to. And sometimes what we end up doing is that we end up telling people or giving people advice when they didn't ask for it. You know, Judy comes in here and sometimes she just wants to be heard. If you ever had that situation there before, they don't really want you to fix it. We're not trying to find a solution. She just wants somebody to listen to her. And so Judy come here talking about all these things going on in her life, and I'm like, well, you know what? If it was me, then I would do. That's not what she wanted to hear. That's not why she came to talk about it. So I'm helping people realize that we're not always here to fix people's problems. Now, I know it's kind of weird saying that as a therapist, but that's not really what every situation is. Sometimes it's as simple as someone just needs to communicate with the other person. So I just want you to know what's going on with me. And so the fact I'm able to tell you about it is helpful. So sometimes people give advice too quickly when the person doesn't really need to know that. Another one is criticizing. The statement here says, well, you brought that on yourself. How helpful do you think that is if you tell somebody that? Dan comes in here and he's like, I got a speeding ticket coming to supervision. I was like, well, you brought that on yourself. Any warm fuzzies going on there? Nothing. He doesn't feel good. He's not going to give me a hug now. We're not communicating on level 5 no more because he's not feeling love. So it's just, we're sometimes just criticizing even we don't realize it. Melissa cooks something. And before she even asked me how it tastes or anything, he's like, baby, we probably should order pizza. He's saying
everything I cook is good, so that's.
Oh, okay.
It's true.
It's just very rare when I actually cook.
Oh, okay.
It's also true.
Yeah, that's good then. But you wouldn't want to just criticize her, but she wouldn't even ask you for an opinion. It's like, so it's easier for us sometimes to pick out negative stuff versus trying to find something positive. Like, it's alive. it's cooked. Whatever the case may be, but sometimes we are too quick to criticize. Name calling. How often do y'all see that with your clients, families, where they just basically are talking negative to each other? Ever see that?
I don't know that I see it, but I'm sure it goes on.
Yeah. Well, you dirty little, we can say all kind of negative things to each other, and those names, they don't really help anything when we do that. So I try to remind people, he has a name. Call him that, Dirty MF is not his name. So you don't want to call him that. That's not really fixing the situation you guys have right now. So make sure you call a person by their name. But sometimes this name calling is, and we do that, it's an easy thing for us to fall back to. This next one, which I get in trouble with all the time, diagnosing. You're getting defensive. Well, I'm not here to diagnose you, People always say, well, you must have the perfect marriage. You're a therapist and you and your wife probably figure out everything perfectly. I'm like, you're an idiot. Name calling, by the way. It doesn't work out that way. We're not supposed to be diagnosing. And so if I'm having a client talk to their spouse or their child or whatever, they're not there to diagnose each other. They're there to communicate with each other. They're diagnosing to us. That's what we do. But in a conversation, I don't need to be saying, well, it looks as if you're becoming defensive. I think you need to be doing this. And so it's like that really becomes about me and what I want versus what they want. So just the way we communicate there. Commanding. Why is commanding a problem? When you command people to do stuff, why would that be an issue?
Puts them in a position of power over you. You're no longer equals.
I would have to say that's probably my biggest pet peeve out of everything in the world. I don't like being talked down to.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, Lord.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh, I hate it.
Because to me, it doesn't make a difference how many degrees we have or how much experience we have. We're all human. We still go out to the bathroom the same way. We all put our pants in the same way for the most part. And so, my thing is we had to talk to each other like we're human. And so, if I come to supervision, well, y'all should be glad I even came today. I just need to. Let's listen to what you have to say. It's not that important. It's just kind of we You see Dad's face just then? He's like, what's going
on with him?
Yeah. But it becomes
That is true,
it becomes a power trip because I'm up here and you're down here, and you should be glad I'm in your presence. You know, you should be thanking me for even showing up today. And so
Right.
some people come off that way, and that turns me. And they can have the best stuff in the world to say, but if I'm getting the feeling that you're trying to command or like lord over me, the conversation's over with.
It overshadows
Yeah.
everything that the intent and purpose was.
Exactly.
It's like it's done.
And so there's a sense of humbleness we have to kind of come to each other with if I'm going to talk to you. And so teaching people that is sometimes hard. Threatening, you know, if you don't do things the way I want you to do, I'm going to leave you. Well, that's maybe a good thing for them if you do that. But just threatening. Sometimes, once again, threatening is all about, it's a power trip, you know. If you don't do this, here's the ultimatum. Now, obviously, there are situations where family members do have to give other family members ultimatums. I get that. Those things happen. But in general, every conversation can't be that way. It can't be you do this or it's the end. There has to be some sense of us communicating what's going on without me all the time making it all about me. So that power, once again, the power differential becomes big as well. Another pet peeve here, a de-evaluation response. You know, it's not so bad. You know, Matt comes here and he's like, oh, you know, I came here this morning, I got a flat tire driving this session. Well, that's not that bad. I know this one guy, you know, and so we make what you have to say not important. We take any value from it whatsoever. So it doesn't make a difference how you're feeling or the fact you're being vulnerable with me. What's happened to you is really not that serious. It's not that bad. And so, once again, if I don't think what people are saying about me is serious or they're not taking me serious, then I'm not going to communicate with them. Oh, my favorite one, topping. Have you ever met anybody who's like, it doesn't make a difference what you have
Yeah,
done?
there's always something.
Oh, that's nothing.
They've done 10 million things on top of that. You know,
Yes.
you know what? I was coming here today and I saw this homeless person. I gave him $1. Oh, that's nothing, man. You know, this past weekend I went to a homeless shelter. I'm just throwing out pizzas, man. I'm doing it all up. You know, they're gonna top you. You know. You know what? I got sick last week. Oh, that's nothing. I got AIDS, bro. You know, I'm dying. We're just gonna. Not that AIDS is funny. I'm not saying it's funny, but you know what I mean. It doesn't matter what the situation is. They're gonna top you, and so it's always a comparison of. Here's what you had to do. Here's what I have done, and we're always trying to top the other person. So that becomes a thing. All or nothing thinking. And I've called all my clients all about that. It's like either things have to be perfect or we can't do it at all. And so to help them realize, no, it can't be all or nothing. There has to be a middle ground for conversations. No, so if me and Matt are disagreeing on something, it can't be I get everything my way and Matt gets nothing out of it. Because Matt's not going to stick around long if that's the way things are. So there has to be a situation where there's a conversation going back and forth and we're all able to win in some sense. But this the all or nothing thinking. Or, oh yeah, like you always do that. No, you don't always do that. Every time I want to do something fun, you always got to do something bad. Is it really every time? Yeah, no, seriously. So this happened yesterday. I didn't do that. That's just one time, and the day before that. So it's really not every time, right? So just being careful about saying that every time. It's like we're making it as if that is happening all the time. And my favorite one is reassuring, where you know you kind of pour your heart out to somebody, and they say, you know, you'll get over it. It's okay, you know. So you don't really have time to kind of be mourning or whatever the case may be. We kind of basically say, you'll get over it. Now I've got, one of these days I'll do this, I have a lesson I can do with the guys on dealing with grief and loss and top 10 things you never say to somebody who's grieving, and that's one of them. But we'll get, that's not here nor there today, but it's a fun one as well. All right, this next one talks about becoming more assertive. This came from a book called 86 Tips for the Therapeutic Toolbox. And it helps us to figure out how to be more assertive. But before we do that one, what does it mean to be assertive? What does that word mean to you guys? To be assertive.
Being effective in letting your needs be known.
Okay, letting your needs be known. That's good. What else?
To be clear and firm without being aggressive.
I like that. Yeah. Be clear and firm without being aggressive. So basically, I'm able to tell you what it is I need and want from you in this relationship, and my needs are being known that way. And the problem is, a lot of people are simply afraid of being assertive because they don't know how to do it. And so I know I have clients who say, well, people run over me all the time because I can't ever ask for what I want. And what do you think the reason is? Why do you feel like what do you think the reason is when I ask them, why do you let people run over you? What do you think?
Because they're not assertive.
Well, that obviously, but why usually people don't try to ask for what they want?
Fear of response.
Fear of response. My favorite one is, I don't want to make anybody mad. Y'all ever hear that? Well, I don't want to make anybody mad, so I'm not going to say anything. I said, so you're going to allow your kid to still smoke crack cocaine in their bedroom because you don't want to say anything because they'll make them mad. Well, since you put it that way, no, I don't really want to do that, but I don't want to upset them. And so the purpose of it is to teach them how do you let people know what you need from them and be straightforward about it. And the first thing is know what you want and why you want it. There's a lot of stuff in life I want, and sometimes it's dumb reasons for it. So I need to be able to be honest with myself, but being able to help our clients see why is it that you want this certain thing. So if you and your spouse aren't going enough dates to each other, whatever the case may be, why do you want that? We may kind of have to kind of process that out, because the thing about it is, as they think about why they actually want something, they may realize it may be for a selfish reason. They may not even need that. But if it's really, really important, then something to go for it. But just kind of knowing why you want a certain thing. But another thing is being specific in your request. So I'll pick up Melissa for a second. If I say, Melissa, you know what? I need you to be nicer to me. Okay? That sound good to you? I want you to be nicer to me. Can you be nicer to me? You're not going to be nicer to me. Why not, Melissa? Why can't you be nicer to me?
You're not nice.
Well, I am nice. Don't make me yell at you, though. I'm not really being specific to her about what I want from her. Being nice can mean a lot of things. Being nice can mean don't slap me every time you see me, you know. Don't push me on the steps, whatever the case may be. But I need to be very specific with her about what it is I actually want. A lot of people don't know what they actually want. So it's a thing, well, she doesn't treat me right. What is she not doing to treat me? Well, I don't know. I said, well, how do you expect her to change her behavior if you don't know what it is that you want from her? And so being very specific about that. Also clarify your thoughts and feelings. So for example, if I'll use Judy for a second. We'll say Judy leaves supervision early every single time. She does it. And so I need for Judy to stay here for all supervision. Now I can just get mad at her. You know, you need to start doing better in supervision, Judy. All right, can you do better?
I'll see.
Okay, see, she says she'll see. I don't know what that means. She don't know what I mean. So I may be very specific with her and say, Judy, it's important for me as your supervisor to know that you're going to be here for supervision because you need it, and we all need it as therapists. And so I need for you to stay for the entire time. And there's a reason why you can't stay. Please let me know. Can we work on that?
Yes.
All right. Very, very specific. I'm telling her some thoughts of why I'm doing it, but it's making me have to actually explain myself to her and why I need a certain thing. Now, I can't just make a random request and expect her to fulfill it, but if she knows why, then it's going to help out quite a bit. Also, we need to anticipate a negative and a positive response. Just because I'm very clear with somebody about what it is I want, it doesn't mean they're going to just happy and go smile and say, yes, I'll do it. You know, like Melissa, she just denied me just a second ago, you know. So I need to anticipate that, you know. She may reject what it is I have to say. I need to be ready for that emotionally. So I don't need to go in there and saying, yes, I'm going to be very, very specific, and when I'm very specific with them, they're going to do exactly what it is I want them to do. Not necessarily. They may still reject you, but you need to learn to be ready to know how to deal with that. Also, decide on the proper timing. Timing, I think, is everything when it comes to communication. You know, if Matt is trying to leave right now, and I need to have a very long conversation with you, it's probably not best for me to stop him right now and say, hey, Matt, we need to have a 45-minute conversation right now, even though I know you're trying to leave and get out of here for another appointment. It's not going to work. So maybe a thing where I need to sit down and say, you know what, when this week do you have about 45 minutes we can talk? Matt says Tuesday, 3 p.m. All right. And so I'll make that time to meet with them, but it's just making sure that I am being very specific in it and make sure the timing is right. You know, if it's like 10 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I need to talk to you, Mike. No, that's not appropriate time. I'm not ready to receive you. You know, and if you call, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm in a bad mood. So make sure the timing is right when we're trying to be assertive there. And also be flexible on the outcome. That we're not always going to get exactly what it is that we want. And so we just have to be able to do that. All right. 2 more quick things here. We're going to finish this section right here. I want you to take out a piece of paper. All right, everybody got a piece of paper. This whole section is going to be talking about learning to listen. All right, everybody got a piece of paper out? All right. What I want you to do, I want you to write down the United States of America. And I'm only going to give you instructions twice. I'll tell you, I'm going to repeat it. Say one time and repeat it, and that's all I'm going to say it. Write down the United States of America. All right. Take out all of the E's. Take out all the E's. All right. Take out every fifth letter.
Is that including the E's we've removed?
Take out every fifth letter.
Oh, okay.
Change the F to an A. Change the F to an A. Move the S's to the front of the word. Move the S's to the front of the word. Take out all of the T's. Take out all of the T's. Take out the first vowel and the last consonant. Take out the first vowel and the last consonant. Move the fourth and fifth letter to the end of the word. Move the fourth and the fifth letter to the end of the word. Replace the S's with L's. Remove the sixth, seventh, and eighth letters.
Now, one more time.
Remove the sixth, seventh, and eighth letters. And then move the double L's to be the third and fourth letters. Move the double L's to be the third and fourth letters.
What if I just removed them?
All right, put your pencils down.
That's,
Does anybody have a word?
I don't know.
I don't know. Let's see. I don't think I do. I don't know what I got.
All right, so Judy doesn't have a word. Anybody have a word? I'm I think Melissa's probably saying no to that one.
Yeah.
Matt, you have a
I don't
word?
listen very well.
I have a bunch of consonants and an I at the end.
Okay, no, that's not right.
Eluido.
How about you?
I got it.
I have an H, an N, a T. I had already removed the L's because
Yeah.
that was the fifth and that was one of the fifth, sixth, and seventh letters that you remove. So
Alright.
the L's were already.
There should have, see how fun that is? It was to me anyway. All right, what I was trying to do is get an exercise on listening. If you had to follow the instructions specifically, because I may get confused, and that's why I said it twice. You should have had the word Holland,
Oh, I have
H-O-L-L-A-N-D.
How did I
HLLDAR.
miss the H?
I don't know.
Oh.
But anyway, fun stuff, right?
Wow.
I can give those instructions to you later on. The point of the whole exercise is kind of give you an understanding of how important listening is, because if you just miss one part of the instruction, what happened to you?
You got screwed up.
It
Yeah.
jacked you up pretty bad. You just missed one part of the
Yes,
instruction.
I got Hildar.
Yeah, that's not a
Right,
word.
and so in doing that instructions, do you know anybody who did it?
Yes, I have a few people every once in a while who will get it right.
Right, so do you include the letters that you removed?
No.
Huh? Okay, no. You don't?
Yeah. Once you mark a letter out, it's gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should water come out of this?
Oh, she's dripping water out her nose. All right. Let me do a couple more slides here. All right, so this next slide talks about what filters hinder how we receive information. You know, right there I was giving y'all some very specific instructions about the things to do. The problem is when someone's talking, we filter it in a certain way. And the first way we filter is what I think you meant is what you meant. So basically, if I think you meant a certain thing, then that's what you meant. So for example, if Dan tells me, I don't know, that he wants to give me $100 or whatever. If I think he meant that, even though that's not what Dan meant, that's what I'm going to take it as to mean. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
We hear what we want to. It doesn't make it in what you said. That's what I heard you say. In my mind, that's how I interpret it. So if that's what I thought you meant, or if that's what I thought you meant, then I know that's what you meant. So I just follow it that way. Another one, which that ends up being a problem, because sometimes we were thinking the wrong thing. Another thing is, what I think you're feeling is what you're feeling. So Dan, right now, he should be feeling angry. Well, Dan may not be feeling that way, but since I think he feels that way, I interpret it that way, and I'm going to respond to him in that way. That's one reason I hate emails. People send us emails sometimes, and we'll read it, and what we think they meant, that's what they meant. And what we think they felt, that's what they felt. So we end up responding in kind. I got an email on Friday, and it was very, very discouraging to me. After I read it, I was like, oh, what does this person even mean? I was upset about it. So I forwarded it to my wife. I said, can you read this? I said, because I may not be reading this right. Because what I think this person meant bothers me, and I'm upset with that person. I was. And so she had to read it and kind of look at it different, because I was thinking that person felt that way, and that's the way I interpreted it. And also, what I think you want is what you want. And if I think you want something, then that's what you want. Now, this is a term they don't really use anymore. It was kind of used in the 70s. It's called mind rape. It is, which obviously, for obvious reasons, they don't use that term anymore. But what mind rape is basically, I think you shouldn't feel that way. So Matt, I asked Matt, so how are you feeling today, Matt?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. You shouldn't feel that way, Matt. You should not feel that way. You should feel this way. And so I'm telling you how you should feel. So whenever we tell somebody how they should be feeling, it's kind of, we're mind raping them. We're taking their ability away from them to think for themselves. And so a lot of times whenever we're communicating with people, we have to realize that just because we took something a certain way does not mean they meant it that certain way. So how do we deal with it? I think the easiest way to deal with it is actually to talk to that person and ask them, Judy, did you mean it that way? When you flipped me off, did you really mean that? You know? Or when you sent me that text message and I read it, when I read it, I was really upset. I thought you meant that you didn't like you had a problem with me. Is that how you meant it? Now guess what? He could have actually meant that. But I won't know that if I don't ask him and figure the thing out. Here's a passage, I think, once again, I think it kind of explains as well. It says, where do you think all these appalling wars and quarrels come from? Do you think they just happen? Think again. They come about because you want your own way, and you fight for it deep inside yourselves. You lust for what you don't have, and are willing to kill to get it. You want what isn't yours and will risk violence to get your hands on it. You wouldn't think of just asking God for it, would you? And why not? Because you know you'd be asking for what you have no right to. You're spoiled children, each wanting your own way. And so the question I sometimes ask is, how many times do we not communicate right with somebody because we're more concerned about how it's going to benefit me than how it's going to affect someone else? So me and Dan are having a conflict with something. Instead of me thinking about how it's going to affect Dan, I'm more concerned about me. And how is it going to affect me and how am I going to benefit from it? And if I'm only focused on that, I'm not concerned about Dan's end of it. And that's where the problem ends up coming in. And so I think it takes a lot of maturity, which I think we can teach our clients, a big chunk of maturity to be able to look at someone else in that situation and see how they think about it. There's a counseling term for that. What's that called? You learned it in grad school. Putting yourself in someone else's shoes.
Oh, empathy.
Empathy. Y'all do that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It means that when that person comes to me who's been married for 60-something years and they're going through a divorce at 60-something years and they're just devastated from it, me not even being 60 years old would not understand that. How do I figure that part out? I had to literally not literally, but figuratively put myself in the shoes and try to see how is this person being affected by this situation. And if I can get my clients to start looking at how other people are looking at the situation, that kind of helps them change the way they do things. Because once again, human nature says to be selfish. What's one of the first things kids say to you when they start holding toys and stuff? Mine, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's mine. That's what I want. It's about me. It's me taking care of my needs.
Mm-hmm.
If I need to be changed, I cry till I get changed. I want milk. The whole thing is about what needs I have to get met. And so helping our clients realize it's not just about your needs. It's about your spouse's needs. It's about your children's needs. And whenever I can step outside of my own head and look at someone else and say, you know what I just did could have affected them this way. And if people start thinking that way, you'll be amazed how much better they communicate with each other. You know what? When I came home today and I was upset and I screamed at you, I was in a bad mood when I walked in. And I took that out on you. I'm sorry. That's a big word to say that you're sorry. Clients don't do that. We're not used to that. It's unusual for me to take responsibility for it. But when everybody starts taking responsibility for their actions and start looking out at how my actions affect you, things change. And so I've said all this stuff today to say this: communication is not easy. It's not going to be, the steps we talked about today is going to be foreign to some of the clients you work with, because it's not simple stuff to get to do. But if they can get into good habits of doing these things, of, okay, before I get into an argument, let me figure out what I'm mad about, things like that, or before I pass judgment on someone else, let me try to think about what they could be thinking. If I'm doing all these things first and trying to listen better, then, and I think in the end run of everything, my relationship is going to be better. And so today, before I get to the argument, how do I best meet this other person's needs? How do I communicate that I love this person, things like that. When our clients start thinking like that, they will get healthier. I don't care if they're dealing with schizophrenia or ADHD, whatever the case may be. When we can communicate with each other better about what's going on inside of us, things begin to get better. But we're used to bad patterns. And so the more they hear this from you guys, the more you give them homework related to stuff like this, and as we get them to build healthy habits, their communication styles will improve. When that improves, their family life improves, and then they don't need us as much anymore because they're starting to be more self-sufficient at that point. Questions, comments? I know it's kind of a lot to kind of go over an hour there, but what question or comments do you have about this?
You communicated it well.
Wow.
Yeah. And the thing is that when we're talking about clients, I know this is a family type thing, but it's a good thing to teach our clients, especially when they got a lot of family junk going on, to listen to each other. And that's something me and my son try to do. You know, he'll say, would you listen? He gets a little frustrated, so I stop and try to really listen to what he's saying. And it's more, you have more understanding when you stop and really listen to what a person has to say. Because I can hear you, I hear your voice, but am I really listening to what you're saying? Really listening to, like you said, the feelings and everything that's coming into play in that. So this is good, I like this.
And I like how you talked about making sure we're listening to what they have to say. 'Cause that's the biggest piece is making sure we're actually taking the time to stop and hear what the other person has to say. I'm horrible with that sometimes, especially with my own kids. Just because we kind of get into the emotion of doing stuff, and it is sometimes very difficult to kind of stop. So, okay, you know what? I'm gonna take myself out of this and listen for a second.
Right.
And that teaching aspect, y'all have to realize too, if you're a therapist, you are a teacher. You're teaching people life skills. It'll make a difference what your theoretical background is or what you have in your scope of practice. We are all teaching. And so my thing is, use this stuff. Use this materials here. Obviously, I know the scriptures and stuff that you probably can't use in session with clients, but the principle, once again, those things remain true. And so be able to talk to them, help them see, okay, how is the way you're talking to your mom or your dad, how is that helping you get a closer relationship with them? That's a hard question. But I'd much rather for them to leave thinking about it and have them come back and talk to me about it versus them to kind of continue in the negative and bad habit of things. So use your influence you have to your client and teach them some better ways about doing things. I think a lot of the stuff, just to me in general, I think it's a lack of education. Not that they're ignorant, it's just they've not been taught the right way. If your normal behavior you've seen your household has been, we curse each other out, we hit each other when we're upset, that's what they know. Does it make them bad? No. That's just how they know how to communicate. So my thing is, reteach that. Teach them new skills to help them to be able to treat each other better. And when they start doing that a lot better, then the growth y'all want to see will get better. And so, hope that was helpful to y'all today.